Keanu lived in a normal neighborhood in Los Angeles. Not the Hollywood Hills, not Malibu, not one of the gated celebrity enclaves. Just a regular residential area. Silver Lake. Mixed income. Families. Working people. Artists. Retirees. He'd lived there for 8 years. Liked the authenticity. Liked having actual neighbors instead of distant mansions behind walls. His house was modest by celebrity standards. 3 bedrooms. Small yard. Nothing ostentatious. He could afford much more, but didn't need it. Didn't want it. This felt like home. Real home. Where people knew him as the quiet guy next door who sometimes helped carry groceries. Not Keanu Reeves, the movie star. His neighbor to the left was Margaret Chun, 76 years old. Widow. Her husband had passed 5 years ago. Cancer. She'd lived in her house for 42 years. Raised 3 kids there. Now they were scattered across the country, busy with their own lives. She was alone but independent. Proud of her independence. Keanu checked on her regularly. Not intrusively, just neighborly. Help with things. Heavy lifting. Reaching high shelves. Once fixed her garbage disposal. She'd bake him cookies in return. Bring him soup when she made too much. Normal neighbor relationship. Except one neighbor happened to be famous. It was Tuesday afternoon. Keanu was home. Rare day off. He was reading on his back porch when he heard knocking. Front door. He went to answer. Margaret stood there, looking distressed, holding an envelope, hands shaking slightly. Margaret, what's wrong? I'm sorry to bother you, Keanu. I know you're busy, but I don't know what to do. I got this letter from the bank. It's about my mortgage. I don't understand it. It sounds bad, like they might take my house. Come seat. Let me see. They sat at his kitchen table. She handed him the envelope. Sterling Private Bank. He pulled out the letter. Read through it. Financial jargon. Dense language. But essentially it was requesting updated documentation for her mortgage. Income verification. Property assessment. Standard stuff. But the wording was threatening. Phrases like failure to comply will result in acceleration of loan terms and potential foreclosure proceedings. This is poorly written, Keanu said. Makes it sound scarier than it is. But let me understand. How long have you had your mortgage with Sterling? 20 years. Refinanced after Harold died. Got a better rate. I've never missed a payment. Not once. And now they're asking for all this documentation? I don't know why. I am scared, Keanu. This house is all I have. If they take it, her voice cracked. Keanu reached across the table, patted her hand. They're not taking your house. This is probably just a routine review. But the letter is confusing. Probably intentionally. Some banks do this. Make simple requests sound urgent. Scary. Pushes people to act without thinking. Do you want me to come with you? To the bank? Help you figure this out? Would you? I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. That's what neighbors do. When can you go? They're open until 5. We could go now if you're free. I'm free. Let me grab my jacket. 20 minutes later, they were in Keanu's car. Older model. Nothing flashy. Reliable Honda. He drove to the address on the letterhead. Sterling Private Bank. West LA branch. It was in a commercial area, between a Whole Foods and a boutique fitness studio. The building was new. Glass and steel. Trying to look prestigious. They parked. Walked to the entrance. Glass doors. Inside the lobby was all marble and gold accents. High ceilings. Minimalist design. Trying too hard to appear exclusive. A few customers at desks with employees. Everyone well-dressed. Serious expressions. Keanu was wearing jeans. Black t-shirt. His old leather jacket. The one with worn elbows. Comfortable sneakers. He hadn't thought about appearance. Just grab what was nearby. Margaret was in slacks and a cardigan. Modest. Clean but not expensive. They approached the reception desk. Young woman there. Early 20s. Impeccable makeup. Designer blouse. She looked up. Smile automatic. But her eyes assessed them. The smile faltered slightly. How can I help you? Margaret spoke. Nervous. I received a letter. About my mortgage. I need to speak with someone. Do you have an appointment? No. I didn't know I needed one. The receptionist's expression cooled. Most of our client consultations are by appointment. But let me see if someone's available. Your name? Margaret Chun. She typed. Looked at a screen. And you bank with us? Yes. For 20 years. I see. One moment. She picked up a phone, spoke quietly, hung up. Mr. Bradshaw will see you. He's our client relationship manager. That desk in the back. Gray suit. Thank you. They walked toward the indicated desk. The man sitting there was mid-30s. Expensive suit. Charcoal gray. Tailored. Hair perfectly styled. He was looking at his computer. Didn't look up as they approached. Keanu and Margaret stood there, waiting. After a long moment, he glanced up. His expression was evaluating, slightly dismissive. Yes? Can I help you? Margaret started to explain. I'm Margaret Chen. I received this letter about my mortgage. She held it out. Christopher Bradshaw took it, barely looked at it. Sterling Private Bank. We sent this. Yes. It says I need to provide documentation or there might be foreclosure. I don't understand. I've never missed a payment. Christopher leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Mrs. Chun, Sterling Private Bank is a private institution. We serve clients of a certain income level, a certain profile. We're in the process of reevaluating our portfolio. Some accounts no longer align with our clientele standards. Keanu felt it immediately. The tone, the implication. He kept his voice calm. She's been your client for 20 years. She has a mortgage with you. You can't just decide not to serve her. Christopher looked at Keanu for the first time. Really looked. Saw the jeans, the worn jacket, the casual appearance. His lip curled slightly. And you are a friend, helping her understand this letter. I see. Well, friend, this is a private bank. We have standards. We serve clients who meet certain financial thresholds. Perhaps Mrs. Chan would be more comfortable at a different institution, something more suited to her needs. There are plenty of public banks, credit unions. They're less selective. The words were careful, but the meaning was clear. You don't belong here. Margaret's face flushed, embarrassed, humiliated. Keanu felt anger rising, but he kept it controlled. Voice steady. Even if I wanted to open an account here, bring a new business. Christopher smiled, condescending. Our minimum deposit for new accounts is $100,000. I doubt that's your situation, sir. No offense. None taken. But you're making assumptions. Can I speak with your branch manager or director? Christopher laughed. Actually laughed. The branch director doesn't meet with every person who walks in off the street. She's very busy. Managing actual clients. High-value accounts. I'm sure you understand. Now, if there's nothing else, I have work to do. I suggest you and Mrs. Chun find a more appropriate banking institution. There's a Chase branch 2 blocks down. They're much less discerning. He turned back to his computer, dismissing them. Margaret looked near tears. Keanu put a gentle hand on her shoulder. One moment, Margaret. He pulled out his phone, stepped slightly away, dialed a number he knew by heart. Christopher glanced up, rolled his eyes, went back to typing. Clearly thought this was over, that they'd leave. Two people who didn't belong, who didn't understand their place. The call connected. James? It's Keanu. I have a situation. Where are my primary accounts right now? James Collins, his financial manager for 15 years. Handled all his banking, investments, trust accounts. James's voice was professional, efficient. Sterling Private Bank, West LA branch. You have approximately $47 million distributed across various accounts. Checking, savings, investment vehicles. Why? Is there a problem? Keanu put the phone on speaker. Volume up, enough that Christopher could hear if he was paying attention, which he wasn't yet. Yeah, there's a problem. I want to close all accounts at Sterling. Immediately. Transfer everything to what are our options? James paused. Processing. Immediately? That's a substantial move. May I ask why? Poor customer service. Discriminatory treatment. I don't want to bank somewhere that treats people like this. Understood. Options include City National, Union Bank, Wells Fargo if you want bigger institution, Bank of America, or we could go with a smaller private bank. Better service. City National. They have good reputation for working with everyone respectfully. Make the transfer today. All accounts. Close everything at Sterling. Now Christopher looked up, started paying attention. His expression shifted. Confusion first, then recognition, then alarm. Wait, James said on the phone. Did you say Sterling West LA? That's where you are now. Yes, at the branch. With a neighbor who's being told she doesn't fit their clientele standards. After 20 years of banking here, that's unacceptable. I'll start the transfers immediately. Should take a few hours to process. 47 million is significant movement. Sterling's going to feel this. Good. And James? Check who else in my network uses Sterling. Anyone. Friends. Business associates. Offer to help them switch if they're interested. Explain why I'm leaving. Will do. I'll send you confirmation once transfers are complete. Thanks, James. Keanu ended the call. Looked at Christopher, who was now pale. Standing. Hands on his desk. Staring. Sir, I'm sorry. Who did you say you were? Keanu ignored the question. Turned to Margaret. Let's see if someone else can help us with your mortgage issue now. Christopher stammered. Please. Wait. Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You made yourself very clear. We don't meet your standards. We're not your clientele. I heard you. So I'm taking my business elsewhere, where I'll be treated with respect. Now, about Mrs. Chen's mortgage. I'll look into it immediately. Right now. Please, just give me a moment. Christopher was typing frantically, pulling up accounts, his face growing more ashen with each screen. Mr. Reeves, I didn't realize. I didn't know who you were. Would it have mattered? If I wasn't who I am, would you have treated us better? Or would we still be not your clientele? Christopher couldn't answer, because they both knew the truth. He judged based on appearance, on assumption, on his own prejudice about who belonged in his bank. And he'd been catastrophically wrong. A door opened. A woman emerged from a private office. 50s, expensive suit, walking fast, almost running. Her face was flushed, breathing heavy. She approached the desk. Mr. Reeves, I am Victoria Raymond, branch director. I just received notification of account closures. Very substantial accounts. There must be some mistake. Some confusion. Keanu turned to her. Calm, polite, but firm. No mistake. Mr. Bradshaw made it clear we're not welcome here, that we don't meet Sterling standards. I respect that. So I'm moving my banking to an institution that values all customers equally. Victoria looked at Christopher, fury and panic mixing on her face. What did you do? Christopher opened his mouth, closed it. No words came out. Victoria turned back to Keanu, professional mask slipping, desperation showing through. Mr. Reeves, please. I'm sure this was a misunderstanding. Sterling Private Bank values all our clients. We pride ourselves on exceptional service. Whatever happened here, we can fix it. You value my accounts. My money. Not me. Not my neighbor. Your employee made that very clear. He told us to go to Chase. Said they're less discerning. Those were his words. Victoria closed her eyes briefly. Knowing how bad this was, how much damage had been done, she opened them. Tried again. Please. What can I do? How can I make this right? Keanu considered. You can help Mrs. Chun with her mortgage issue. Explain that threatening letter. Make sure she's not going to lose her home. Do that, and I won't publicly comment on what happened here today. Don't do it, and I will. Victoria immediately moved. Mrs. Chun, of course. Please sit. Let me look at your account personally. She gestured to her office. More private. More comfortable. Margaret looked at Keanu. He nodded. She followed Victoria. Keanu stayed at Christopher's desk. Christopher stood frozen, clearly wanting to speak, to apologize, to fix this, but knowing it was too late. The damage was done. $47 million was walking out the door, and probably more, because Keanu had meant what he said. His network would hear about this. After 15 minutes, Victoria and Margaret emerged. Margaret looked relieved. Lighter. Victoria's professional mask was back in place. Barely. Mrs. Chen's account is in perfect standing, Victoria said. The letter was standard documentation request. Poorly worded. I apologize for the confusion and distress it caused. We'll send clearer communication. Her mortgage is secure. No issues whatsoever. Good, Keanu said. Thank you for clarifying. Mr. Reeves, please, reconsider the account closures. I can personally guarantee you'll receive our highest level of service. No more incidents like this. I'm sure I would receive excellent service. Because now you know who I am. But what about next time? Next person who walks in not looking wealthy? How will they be treated? Your employee showed me your culture. I don't want to be part of it. Christopher will be dealt with. I promise. That's between you and him. My decision stands. Come on, Margaret. Let's go. They walked to the exit. Behind them, Victoria's voice rose. Angry. Directed at Christopher. The words were muffled, but the tone was clear. He was in serious trouble. In the car, Margaret was quiet. Then, I'm so sorry, Keanu. You lost your bank because of me. I didn't lose anything important, Margaret. Money moves easily. But dignity? Respect? Those matter. The way they treated you is wrong. I just responded the only way that would make them understand. You're a good man. I'm just a neighbor helping a neighbor. Let's get you home. As he drove, his phone buzzed. Text from James. First transfer's complete. Sterling West LA is panicking. They've called 3 times asking if there's anything they can do. I told them the decision is final. Other contacts are asking questions. Word is spreading fast. Keanu didn't reply. Just drove. Margaret was safe. Her house was secure. That was what mattered. Everything else was just consequences. Consequences of treating people as less than human. Of judging by appearance. Of thinking some people mattered more than others. Those consequences were just beginning. Inside Sterling Private Bank, Victoria Raymond stood over Christopher Bradshaw's desk. Her voice was low, controlled, but shaking with fury. The other employees in the branch pretended to work. But everyone was listening. Everyone knew what had just happened. You just cost us $47 million. In one conversation. Do you understand that? Christopher's face was white. I didn't know who he was. That's not the point. Victoria's control slipped. Her voice rose. You don't treat people like that regardless of who they are. Every person who walks through that door deserves respect. That's basic customer service. That's basic human decency. What were you thinking? They looked. I thought they were just... the woman had a small mortgage. And he was dressed like... Like what? Like someone having a casual day? Like someone who doesn't feel the need to prove his wealth through clothing? You judged him. You judged her. Based on appearance. Based on your own narrow prejudice about what wealth looks like. And now we're paying the price. Can't you call him? Apologize? Offer him something? Victoria laughed. Bitter. Offer him what, Christopher? He has more money than this entire branch handles in a year. He doesn't need us. We needed him. Past tense. And it's not just his accounts. He told his financial manager to contact his network, to help them switch banks. Do you know who his network is? Actors, directors, producers, tech entrepreneurs, people with serious wealth. If even a fraction of them leave because of this, we're looking at hundreds of millions in lost assets. Christopher sat down heavily, reality crashing in. What happens now? Now I call regional. Explain what happened. Then they decide your fate. But Christopher, I'll tell you right now, you're done. This branch might be done. We can't recover from this kind of loss. Not in this market. She walked to her office, slammed the door. Christopher sat at his desk. Other employees avoided eye contact. He'd been the golden boy, top performer, confident, successful. Now he was toxic. The man who insulted Keanu Reeves and cost Sterling Private Bank tens of millions. Possibly more. His phone buzzed. Text from his wife. Did something happen at work? Your boss's boss just called asking for you. Sounded serious. He didn't respond. Didn't know what to say. How do you explain you destroyed your career in 5 minutes? Because you were a snob. Because you made assumptions. Because you forgot basic human decency. In Victoria's office, she was on the phone with Richard Ashford, regional director for Sterling Private Bank. Oversaw 15 branches. He was not happy. Explain to me how one branch lost $47 million in one day. Victoria recounted the story. Christopher's behavior. Keanu's response. The account transfers. Richard was silent as she spoke. When she finished, the silence stretched. Finally, one employee, one interaction. This is the damage. Yes, but it's worse than just the money. It's the reputation. If this gets out, if Reeves talks about it publicly, we'll be known as the bank that discriminates. That treats regular people like dirt. In this climate, that's death. Nobody wants to bank somewhere that makes them feel inferior. Has Reeves said anything publicly? Not yet. He said he wouldn't if we resolve the neighbor's issue. We did, but I don't know if that protection holds. He was very clear, very calm, but I could see he was angry, righteously angry. Fire Bradshaw. Immediately. Today. Make it clear this doesn't represent Sterling's values. Already planning to. But Richard, it might not be enough. This branch was already struggling. Profit margins thin. This loss might push us into closure territory. Let's see how bad the bleeding is. Track any other account movements. If his network starts pulling out, we'll know quickly. Keep me updated. Every hour. Will do. Victoria hung up, looked at her computer screen. Already she could see activity. 3 more accounts flagged for closure. All high value. All clients she knew had connections to entertainment industry. It was starting. She called Christopher in. He entered, looking like a man walking to execution. Probably accurate. Seat. He sat. You're terminated. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You'll receive 2-week severance. That's more than you deserve, but it's policy. Your reputation in banking is finished. I'll make sure of it. What you did today was discriminatory, unethical, and catastrophically stupid. Get out of my sight. Christopher tried to speak. Please. I have a mortgage. Kids. I made a mistake, but you made a choice. You chose to treat people as less than human. You chose to judge based on appearance. Those choices have consequences. Live with them. Security. 2 guards appeared. Escorted Christopher to his desk. Watched as he packed his personal items. A few photos. A coffee mug. His expensive pen set. Then walked him to the door. Other employees watched. Some with sympathy. Most with relief. Better him than them. Christopher stood outside. Box of belongings in hand. Unemployed. His career in ruins. All because of 5 minutes. 5 minutes of arrogance. Of classism. Of forgetting that every person deserves dignity. He got in his car. Drove home. Didn't know how to tell his wife. Didn't know how to explain. By the time he arrived, she already knew. The phone calls had continued. Other banks in his network asking what happened. Word spread fast in banking circles. She met him at the door. They're saying you insulted Keanu Reeves. That you cost your bank millions. Tell me it's not true. He couldn't. Because it was true. All of it. Meanwhile, James Collins was making calls. He had a list. Keanu's contacts who banked with Sterling. He reached out personally. Professional. Discreet. This is James Collins. I manage Keanu Reeves' finances. I'm calling because Keanu recently closed all his accounts at Sterling Private Bank due to discriminatory treatment he witnessed. I wanted to offer assistance if you're considering moving your banking relationship. No pressure, just information. The response was immediate. Most said yes. Transfer my accounts. I don't want to bank somewhere that treats people badly. A few asked for details. James provided them. Without exaggeration. Just facts. What Christopher said. How Margaret was treated. How Keanu responded. By end of business that day, Sterling West LA branch had received closure requests for 18 accounts. Total value, $212 million. The bleeding was catastrophic. Richard Ashford watched the numbers come in. Each notification a punch to the gut. He called an emergency meeting. All regional managers. Video conference. We have a crisis. The West LA branch lost $250 million today. One incident. One employee being discriminatory to the wrong person. This is going to spread. Media will pick it up. We need damage control. Ideas. One manager suggested public apology. Have Victoria make a statement. Apologize. Commit to diversity training. Show we're taking it seriously. Another disagreed. That draws more attention. Makes it bigger story. Better to handle quietly. Let blow over. Richard considered. The problem is Keanu Reeves. His platform. If he decides to talk about this, it becomes national news. We can't control that. Best we can do is minimize additional damage. Victoria, what's your assessment? Victoria, on the call, looked exhausted. The branch is bleeding clients. Not just the high-value ones. Regular clients, too. They're hearing about what happened. Deciding they don't want to bank here. I think we're looking at closure. Within 3 months. Maybe sooner. Silence on the call. A branch closure was serious. Bad for company image. Bad for profits. Bad for everyone. Do what you can to stabilize, Richard said. But start contingency planning. If we have to close, we do it cleanly. Transfer clients to other branches. Minimize disruption. And everyone learn from this. One employee, one moment of discrimination. This is the cost. The call ended. Victoria sat in her office. 23 years with Sterling. Worked her way up from teller to branch director. This was her branch, her responsibility. And it was dying because she'd hired the wrong person, because she hadn't caught his attitude earlier, because the culture had allowed it. She thought about the incidents she'd ignored. Small things. Christopher making comments about clients' clothing. Rolling his eyes when certain people came in. She'd thought it was just personality. Harmless snobbery. Hadn't realized it would manifest like this. Hadn't stopped it. Now 15 employees would lose their jobs. She'd probably be demoted or fired. The branch would close. All because discrimination had been tolerated. Normalized. Allowed to fester until it exploded. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. Victoria Raymond. Ms. Raymond. This is Rachel Kim. I'm a reporter with the Los Angeles Times. I'm working on a story about Sterling Private Bank. About an incident involving Keanu Reeves. Do you have any comment? Victoria's stomach dropped. How did you hear about this? Multiple sources. Clients who moved their accounts. Someone who witnessed the interaction. This is going to print. I'm offering you a chance to provide Sterling's perspective. No comment. Any statements will come from corporate communications. Can you confirm Keanu Reeves closed his accounts today due to discriminatory treatment? No comment. Can you confirm an employee was fired for insulting Mr. Reeves and an elderly client? I'm not discussing personnel matters. Please contact our corporate office. Victoria hung up. It was happening. The story was breaking. By tomorrow, it will be everywhere. She called Richard back. Media has it. LA Times is running a story. We need corporate communications ready. Richard swore. I'll alert them. Prepare for impact. This is going to be bad. The story ran online that evening. Private bank loses millions after staff insult Keanu Reeves, an elderly neighbor. The article was detailed. Included quotes from witnesses. From other clients who'd left. From banking industry experts about the cost of discrimination. By morning, it was everywhere. Entertainment news. Financial news. Social media. The story had everything. Celebrity. Massive money. Clear villain. Sympathetic victim in Margaret. Justice served. Twitter exploded. Keanu Reeves strikes again. Most expensive insult in banking history. This is why we love Keanu. Uses his wealth for good. That bank employee just learned an expensive lesson about judging people. Some defended Christopher. He didn't know it was Keanu Reeves. Bit harsh to destroy his life over one mistake. But most disagreed. It shouldn't matter who it was. You treat all customers with respect. Period. He didn't just insult a celebrity. He humiliated an elderly woman. Deserved what he got. The story mentioned Margaret by name, with her permission. Reporters found her. Interviewed her. She was gracious. Kind. Keanu didn't have to help me. Didn't have to do anything. But he saw me being treated poorly, and he responded. Not with anger. Not with cruelty. Just by taking his business elsewhere. That's his right. I'm grateful to him. He's a good neighbor. A good person. Her interview made the story more sympathetic. This wasn't just about a rich celebrity throwing weight around. It was about standing up for someone vulnerable. Someone being dismissed because she didn't fit a bank's image of worthy clientele. Public opinion solidified. Sterling Private Bank was the villain. Christopher was the face of that villainy. And Keanu was the hero. Again, as always, Sterling's corporate office released a statement. Sterling Private Bank does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. The employee involved has been terminated. We are conducting a thorough review of our policies and training programs. We apologize to Mr. Reeves and Ms. Chun for this unacceptable experience. The statement was too little, too late. The damage was done, not just to reputation. To bottom line, the closures continued, not just at West LA branch, at other Sterling locations. Clients reading the story, deciding they didn't want to be associated with a bank that treated people this way. Within a week, Sterling had lost over $400 million in assets. Multiple branches affected. Stock price down 18%. Shareholders demanding answers. The board calling for accountability. Richard Ashford was demoted, replaced as regional director. Victoria was transferred to a small branch in suburban nowhere. Effective demotion. The West LA branch received closure notice. 90 days to wind down operations. Transfer clients. Liquidate assets. Christopher Bradshaw watched from the outside. Unemployed. Unemployable in banking. His LinkedIn profile got messages, but not job offers. People telling him he was an idiot, that he deserved what happened, that he'd learned an expensive lesson. His wife was supportive, but strained. Their lifestyle had been built on his salary. Now that was gone. Savings would last a few months. Then what? He applied for jobs. Outside banking. Sales. Management. Anything. Most places didn't respond. Those that did often rescinded offers once they Googled his name. Christopher Bradshaw. The guy who insulted Keanu Reeves. It was the first result. Every time. Defining him. Destroying him. He spiraled. Depression. Anxiety. His wife insisted on therapy. He went. Reluctantly. The therapist asked what happened. I made a mistake. Judged someone by appearance. It cost me everything. Why did you judge them? I don't know. Because that's what I always did. Because the culture at the bank encouraged it. Because I thought I was better than people who looked like that. Do you still think that? Long pause. No. I think I was an asshole. I think I deserved to be fired. But I don't think I deserve to have my entire life destroyed. What would be just punishment in your mind? I don't know. Training? Demotion? Something that let me learn and grow. Not this. Not being unemployable. Not having my name be permanently associated with discrimination. Do you think Ms. Chun deserved to be treated the way you treated her? No. Do you think Mr. Reeves deserved it? No. Then perhaps the punishment fits. You treated people as disposable, as less than. Now you're experiencing what that feels like. Maybe that's the lesson. Christopher left the session feeling worse, but also understanding something. He dehumanized people, treated them as categories instead of individuals. Now, he was experiencing the same, being reduced to one mistake. One moment, one category, the guy who insulted Keanu Reeves. It wasn't fair, but it was the consequence. And maybe, if he was honest, it was deserved. 3 weeks after the incident, Margaret Chun received a letter. Not from Sterling Private Bank, from City National Bank. She opened it nervously. After the last bank letter, she was wary. But this one was different. Friendly. Clear language. Dear Ms. Chun, we understand you recently experienced unsatisfactory service at your previous banking institution. City National Bank would be honored to serve your banking needs. We pride ourselves on treating all clients with dignity and respect, regardless of account size. If you're interested in transferring your mortgage and banking relationship to us, we've enclosed information about our services. We offer competitive rates and personalized service. Please contact us if you'd like to discuss options. Sincerely, Maria Gonzalez, branch manager. Margaret showed the letter to Keanu when he came by to check on her. He read it, smiled. That's nice. No pressure. Just an offer. Did you arrange this? No. James might have mentioned to them that you were looking for better service. But this is them reaching out. Their choice. Do you want to switch? I don't know. The devil you know versus the devil you don't. Sterling treated you badly. Made you feel small. You don't owe them loyalty. But it's your choice. Whatever you decide, I'll help if you need it. Margaret thought about it for a few days. Finally decided to at least meet with City National. See what they offered. Keanu drove her. They entered the branch. Different atmosphere immediately. Warmer. More welcoming. The staff was diverse. Young and old. Various ethnicities. Less formal, but still professional. Maria Gonzalez was a woman in her 40s. Warm smile. She greeted them personally. Ms. Chun. Mr. Reeves. Thank you for coming in. Please have a seat in my office. Her office was comfortable. Not pretentious. Photos of family on the desk. Diplomas on the wall. She offered them coffee. Water. Made sure they were comfortable. Then listened. Really listened as Margaret explained her mortgage situation. Her concerns. Her budget. I can work with this, Maria said. We can transfer your mortgage. Possibly get you a better rate. Lower monthly payment. And Ms. Chun, I want you to know something. You'll never receive a letter from us that isn't crystal clear. If we need documentation, we'll explain why. We'll use plain language. No scary legal terms designed to confuse. Banking should be straightforward, especially for clients who've been responsible for decades. Like you, Margaret felt tears forming. That's all I wanted, to be treated like I matter. You do matter. Every client matters. That's not just talk. That's our policy, our culture. I've worked here 12 years. Never seen anyone treated the way you were treated at Sterling. That wouldn't fly here. They spent an hour going over options, numbers, terms, everything explained clearly. No pressure, no judgment. At the end, Margaret decided to switch. Transfer her mortgage, open a checking account, start fresh. As they were leaving, Maria said, "Mr. Reeves, I want to thank you. What you did, moving your accounts, it sent a message. Not just to Sterling, to the whole industry. That discrimination has consequences. We're benefiting from that, getting new clients. But more importantly, it reminded everyone in banking that we're service providers. We serve people, all people. That should never be forgotten." Keanu nodded. "I just did what felt right. Margaret deserved better. Still does. And she'll get it here. I promise." Over the following weeks, City National saw an influx of new clients. Some directly from Sterling, others just attracted by the positive publicity the bank Keanu Reeves chose. They were careful not to exploit it. No advertising campaigns featuring him. No press releases. Just quiet competence. Good service. Letting results speak. Their stock price increased 8%. Not massive, but significant. The CEO, Russell Wade, sent a company-wide email. "Recent events have shown us the value of our commitment to inclusive banking. We've always believed in serving all clients with dignity. Now the market is rewarding that approach. Let's continue to earn that trust. Every interaction, every client, every day." Meanwhile, Sterling continued to hemorrhage. The West LA branch closure was announced officially. Media covered it. Sterling closes branch after Keanu Reeves' exodus. Employees were given severance. Some transferred to other branches. Others left banking entirely. The building was leased to a tech startup, but the damage went beyond one branch. Corporate culture was under scrutiny. Investigators found patterns. Sterling had been denying mortgages to minority applicants at higher rates than comparable banks, charging higher fees in lower-income neighborhoods, systematically directing wealthy clients to certain branches and poorer clients to others. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau opened an investigation. Federal regulators got involved. What had started as one incident of rudeness had exposed systemic discrimination. Sterling faced potential fines, lawsuits, massive restructuring. The board fired the CEO, brought in new leadership, committed to wholesale culture change. But the brand was damaged, possibly beyond repair. Clients continued leaving. Market share eroding. What had been a profitable regional bank was now struggling to survive. Christopher Bradshaw watched all this unfold from his new job. He'd finally found employment. Car sales. At a Hyundai dealership. It was honest work, but a massive step down. His income was a third of what it had been. Commission-based. Unpredictable. He wore a polyester polo shirt with a dealership logo. Smiled at customers. Tried to make sales. His co-workers didn't know his story. He'd been careful in interviews. Used a different reference. Downplayed his banking experience. Just said he wanted a career change. But he lived in fear that someone would recognize him. That a customer would say, "Wait, aren't you the guy from that Keanu Reeves thing?" It happened eventually. 2 months into the job, a customer came in, looked at him closely. "I know you. You were all over the news. Sterling Bank. You're the manager who insulted Keanu Reeves." Christopher's blood ran cold. That was a difficult situation. "I made mistakes. I'm not that person anymore." The customer stared, then left. Didn't buy a car. Didn't even look at inventory. Just left. Told the story to others. Word spread in the dealership. By the end of the day, everyone knew. His manager called him in. "Is this true? You're the guy from the bank thing?" "Yes, but that's in the past. I'm trying to move forward." "Man, you cost that bank millions. Why didn't you mention this in your interview?" "Because I knew no one would hire me if I did. I need this job. I have a family. I'm good at sales. Give me a chance." The manager considered. "Okay, but keep your head down. If customers start complaining, if this affects business, we'll have to reconsider. Clear. Crystal clear. Thank you. Christopher kept working. But it was hard. Some customers, when they found out who he was, refused to work with him. Asked for a different salesperson. It didn't happen often, but enough to hurt. Enough to remind him. His past followed him. Would always follow him. At home, things were strained. His wife had gone back to work. Part-time at first, then full-time. They needed the income. Their lifestyle had contracted. No more expensive restaurants. No vacations. They'd sold one car. Were considering downsizing the house. Their kids asked questions. Why is money tight? Why did dad change jobs? They didn't have good answers. His marriage suffered. Not fatally, but the stress created distance. Arguments about money. About his choices. About whether he'd learned anything. His wife, Sandra, finally confronted him one night. Do you understand what you did? Really understand? I was rude to someone. I made assumptions. I know that. You were more than rude. You were cruel. You made an elderly woman feel worthless. You judged someone based on how they dressed. You embodied everything wrong with our culture. Our obsession with wealth, with appearance, with status. And you're not angry at yourself. You're angry you got caught. That's not fair, isn't it? You regret the consequences. Do you regret the action? Christopher thought. Long silence. I don't know. I think I was doing what the bank wanted. What the culture encouraged. I was rewarded for being selective. For maintaining their image. So I did. And when it blew up, I was the only one punished. Because you were the one who said the words. Who made the choice? You can't blame culture for your actions. You had agency. You chose cruelty. Own that. He couldn't respond. Because she was right. He'd had a choice. Every moment. He could have been kind. Could have helped. Could have treated them like human beings. He'd chosen otherwise. That was on him. Only him. 6 months after the incident, a documentary filmmaker named Aaron Shun reached out to Christopher. I'm making a short film about the incident. About culture in banking. About class discrimination. I'd like to interview you. Tell your side. Christopher was hesitant. More publicity seemed like a bad idea. But Aaron was persuasive. This isn't about making you a villain. It's about examining systems. About how good people can do bad things when culture encourages it. Your perspective matters. Why would you want my perspective? Everyone hates me. Because you're human. You made a mistake. A big, public mistake. But you're not a monster. You're a person who got caught in a system. I want to explore that. The humanity in failure. Christopher talked to Sandra. She encouraged it. Maybe telling your story will help you process. Help others understand. It's worth trying. He agreed. The interview took place in their living room. Aaron and a small crew. Christopher was nervous, sweating under the lights. Aaron started gently. Tell me about your background. How you got into banking. Christopher talked. About growing up middle class. About wanting success. About getting hired at Sterling. Being trained to identify high-value clients. To cultivate them. To gently discourage others. We weren't told to discriminate, but it was implied. Certain clients were worth our time. Others weren't. It became automatic. A reflex. When Keanu Reeves and Margaret came in, what were you thinking? I saw their clothes. Their appearance. Made instant judgment. Not wealthy. Not worth my time. Probably couldn't afford our services. I went into brush-off mode. Get them out quickly. Move on to real clients. Did you recognize Mr. Reeves? Not at first. Not until it was too late. Would I have treated him differently if I'd known? Probably. Which is part of the problem. I would have respected his wealth. Not him as a person. That's wrong. I see that now. What's the worst part of the aftermath for you? Christopher's eyes watered. That I hurt people. That woman, Margaret, she was scared. Thought she'd lose her home. And I made her feel worthless. I carry that. Every day. I think about her. About how I made her feel. That's worse than losing my job. Worse than all of it. The knowledge that I caused pain. To someone who didn't deserve it. Have you tried to apologize to her? I wouldn't know how. What do you say? Sorry, I embodied systemic classism and made you feel like garbage? It's inadequate. I don't know if apology is even possible for something like this. What have you learned? That everyone deserves dignity. Regardless of wealth. Regardless of appearance. That the service industry isn't about serving money. It's about serving people. That culture can corrupt you, make you complicit in cruelty. You have to resist that. Actively. Daily. I didn't. And I paid the price. But more importantly, others paid the price. That's what I have to live with. The interview went on for 2 hours. Aaron got what he needed. When they wrapped, he thanked Christopher. This was brave. Vulnerable. I appreciate you doing it. Will this help? Or make things worse? I don't know. But I think telling the truth, even when it's painful, is important. People need to understand how discrimination happens. Not just from evil people, but from normal people in toxic systems. Your story illustrates that. The documentary premiered 4 months later, at a film festival, then on a streaming platform. It was called The Cost of Class, Banking, Discrimination, and One Expensive Mistake. It featured Christopher's interview, but also interviews with banking experts, with civil rights advocates, with Margaret and Keanu. Margaret's interview was poignant. I don't hate the young man. I think he was taught wrong. Worked in a system that valued money over people. He's a victim, too, of that system. But he also made choices. He could have been kind. He wasn't. That's on him. Keanu's segment was brief. He didn't dwell on the incident. Focused on larger issues. Banking should be accessible, respectful, for everyone, not just the wealthy. When institutions forget that, they deserve to lose business. I had the means to make a point. Most people don't. That's why systemic change matters more than individual incidents. The documentary was well received. Critics praised its nuance, its examination of how culture and individual choice intersect. It didn't absolve Christopher, but it didn't demonize him either. Just showed him as human. Flawed. Products of systems that encourage bad behavior. Christopher watched it alone. Sandra was at work. Kids at school. He sat in the living room. Saw himself on screen. Heard his own words. Felt the weight of them. When it ended, he cried. Not from self-pity. From recognition. Of who he'd been. Who he'd become. How far he still had to go. That evening, he did something he'd been avoiding for months. He wrote a letter. To Margaret Shun. He didn't know her address. But he knew the neighborhood from a news coverage. He addressed it to her name. That street. Hoped it would reach her. Dear Miss Chun, you don't know me. But I'm the bank manager who treated you poorly. Who made you feel unwelcome. Who dismissed your concerns and your dignity. I wanted to write this for months. But I didn't know what to say. Still don't. But I need to try. I was wrong. Completely. Inexcusably wrong. You deserved respect. Deserved help. Deserved to be treated as a valued client and human being. Instead, I treated you as an inconvenience. As someone beneath my attention. That was cruel. That was the worst version of who I am. And I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough. Doesn't undo the hurt. Doesn't erase what happened. But it's all I have to offer. I lost my job. My career. My reputation. People tell me that's justice. Maybe it is. But my biggest regret isn't what I lost. It's what I did to you. The fear I caused. The humiliation. You didn't deserve that. I hope your mortgage is resolved. I hope you're doing well. I hope someday you can forgive me. Even if I can't forgive myself. With deepest regret, Christopher Bradshaw. He mailed it. Didn't expect a response. Didn't deserve one. But it felt important. To say it. To own it. To acknowledge the harm. 2 weeks later, he received a reply. Simple envelope. His name and return address. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a single page. Handwritten. Neat script. Mr. Bradshaw, I received your letter. Thank you for writing. I accept your apology. Not because you deserve forgiveness, but because carrying anger hurts me more than you. What you did was wrong. But I've seen the documentary. I understand you're trying to be better. That matters. My mortgage is fine. I'm with a bank that treats me with respect. Mr. Reeves helped with that. I'm grateful to him. And I'm grateful you've learned. Use what happened. Teach others. Make sure no one else treats people the way you treated me. That would be the best apology. Not words. Actions. I wish you well. Margaret Shun. Christopher read it 3 times. Felt something he hadn't felt in months. Not happiness, but a small lessening of weight. She'd forgiven him. Not forgotten. Not excused, but forgiven. Given him a path forward. Make amends through action. Through being better. Through teaching others. He thought about how to do that. He wasn't in banking anymore. Couldn't change that culture from inside. But he could speak. could share his story, could warn others about the dangers of class discrimination, of judging by appearance, of forgetting people's humanity. He reached out to Aaron, the documentary filmmaker. Would you connect me with educators? People who teach business ethics? Customer service? I want to tell my story. Help people avoid my mistakes. Aaron made connections. Within a month, Christopher was speaking at a community college. Business ethics class. 50 students. He stood in front of them, more nervous than he'd been for any sales pitch. My name is Christopher Bradshaw. 6 months ago, I was a bank manager. I insulted Keanu Reeves and an elderly woman. Cost my employer $250 million. Lost my job, my career, my reputation. I'm here to tell you how that happened, so you can avoid it. He told the story, honestly, without minimizing, without excusing. The students listened, some with judgment, some with sympathy, all attentive. At the end, questions. Do you think you deserve what happened? Yes and no. I deserve consequences, but the magnitude felt disproportionate. That said, I caused disproportionate harm, so maybe it balances. Would you have acted differently if you'd known it was Keanu Reeves? Probably, which is the problem. I should have acted with respect regardless. Wealth shouldn't determine dignity. What's your life like now? Harder. I sell cars. Make a fraction of what I used to. My family struggles. My marriage is strained. But I'm learning humility. Learning that my worth isn't my job or my income. It's how I treat people. I'm still learning that. Daily. After the class, several students approached. Thanked him. Said his honesty helped. One young woman said, I work retail. Customers treat me like dirt sometimes. Because I'm just a cashier. Your story reminded me that everyone deserves respect. In both directions. I'll remember that. That felt important. Bigger than him. His mistake becoming a lesson. His pain creating growth. For others. For himself. Christopher continued speaking. At colleges. At business groups. At banks that invited him for training. The guy who made the expensive mistake. Sharing his story. Hoping it mattered. Hoping it helped. One person at a time. One lesson at a time. Building something small but real from the ruins of his career. It wasn't redemption. Not yet. Maybe never. But it was a path. Forward. Toward being better. Toward making amends. Toward honoring Margaret's forgiveness through action. Through helping others avoid his mistakes. Through adding something positive to a world he'd harmed. That would have to be enough. Because it was all he had. And maybe, just maybe it was enough. 1 year after the incident, Sterling Private Bank was in full crisis mode. The West LA branch closure had been just the beginning. 3 more branches had closed. 2 in California. 1 in Nevada. The federal investigation had concluded. Sterling was fined $85 million for discriminatory lending practices. Pattern and practice violations going back a decade. The fine was substantial, but the reputation damage was worse. Clients continued leaving. Not in the dramatic flood of the first weeks, but a steady trickle. Death by 1,000 cuts. Each month, net negative in accounts. Market share declining. Stock price down 40% from pre-incident levels. The new CEO, Patricia Morgan, was brought in to salvage what remained. She was a banking veteran, known for turnarounds. She assessed the situation coldly. Sterling had 2 options: radical transformation or slow death. She chose transformation. First move, rebrand. Sterling Private Bank became Sterling Community Financial. Dropped the private. Dropped the exclusivity angle. Position as a bank for everyone. New logo. New marketing. New mission statement. Banking with dignity for all. Second, culture overhaul. Mandatory training for all employees. Not one-day seminar. Ongoing program. Monthly sessions. About unconscious bias. About class discrimination. About treating every customer with respect. Guest speakers included Margaret Shun. Margaret was hesitant when first approached. Why would I help them? They hurt me. Patricia met with her personally. Because you can prevent it from happening to others. Your voice matters. Your story matters. We need people like you to hold us accountable. To remind us why this matters. Margaret agreed. Her first session was at Sterling headquarters. San Francisco. Conference room full of regional managers. She stood at the podium. Small. Elderly. But powerful. I'm Margaret Chen. I banked with Sterling for 20 years. Never missed a payment. Did everything right. Then one day, I needed help. Your employee treated me like trash. Made me feel worthless. Because I wasn't rich. Wasn't important. That's wrong. Banking is a service. You serve people. All people. If you can't do that with dignity, you shouldn't be in this business. The room was silent. Uncomfortable. Good. It should be uncomfortable. I'm here because your new CEO asked me. Because she says you're changing. I hope that's true. But I'll be watching. Others will be watching. You don't get to forget what happened. You have to earn trust back. One interaction at a time. Prove you're different now. Prove you've learned. Her talks became regular. Monthly. At different branches. Different training sessions. She became the voice of the customer. The conscience of the bank. Employees respected her. Some feared her. All listened. Sterling's transformation was slow. Painful. But real. Policies changed. Hiring practices changed. Performance metrics changed. No longer just about attracting high-net-worth clients. About serving all clients well. About retention through respect. Gradually, the bleeding stopped. 12 months post-incident, Sterling had its first month of net positive account growth in a year. Small, fragile, but positive. Patricia saw it as a sign. The turnaround was possible. She issued a company-wide memo. We've stabilized, but we're not done. Trust takes years to build. We lost it in minutes. Rebuilding will take longer. Stay committed. Stay humble. Stay focused on serving with dignity. That's our path forward. Meanwhile, Keanu was largely removed from the story. He'd moved on. Other projects. Other concerns. Occasionally asked about it in interviews. He kept responses brief. I'm glad Sterling is making changes. That was always the goal. Not to destroy them. To push them to be better. Sounds like they're trying. That's good. Reporters push for more. Drama. Ongoing conflict. He didn't give it to them. It's not about me. It's about Margaret and everyone like her. People who deserve respect regardless of their bank balance. If Sterling is providing that now, then something good came from something bad. That's enough. His financial manager, James, had kept his accounts at City National. They're doing great, he reported. Excellent service. Growing the relationship. And they're getting other clients through word of mouth. People who heard your story want to bank somewhere that values people. It's been good for them. And Margaret, she's happy there. No issues. They treat her well. Good. That's what matters. But the story wasn't done. 2 years after the incident, Christopher Bradshaw was still speaking, still sharing his story. He developed a full presentation, used in business schools, étiques, banking training programs. He was paid sometimes, modest speaking fees, not enough to live on, but supplementing his car sales income. His presentation was titled The Most Expensive 5 Minutes of My Life. It was honest, unflinching. He showed the news clips, read the headlines, share the financial damage, then talked about the human cost. I hurt people. That's the bottom line. I hurt an elderly woman who needed help. I exemplified the worst of banking culture. And I paid a price. Lost my career, my reputation. But the real cost was moral. Knowing I'd caused pain. That stays with you. He always ended with lessons. First, treat everyone with dignity. Not because they might be rich. Not because they might be famous. Because they're human. Second, resist toxic culture. If your workplace rewards discrimination, speak up or leave. Don't be complicit. Third, apologize when you're wrong. Sincerely. And make amends through action. Words aren't enough. Students found it compelling. Raw. Real. He wasn't trying to rehabilitate his image. Just trying to teach. To prevent others from making his mistakes. That authenticity resonated. One student asked, "Do you think you've been forgiven? By society?" I don't think society forgives. It moves on. Forgets. I've been forgiven by the person who mattered most. Margaret Chun. She wrote me. Told me to make amends through action. I'm trying to do that. Whether I'll ever forgive myself, I don't know. But I'm trying to be useful. To add something positive. That's the best I can do. His marriage had stabilized. Sandra had seen his efforts. His genuine transformation. You're not the same person who worked at that bank, she told him. You're humbler. Kinder. More aware. The cost was high. But maybe you needed it. To wake up. To see what you'd become. I did. I just wish it hadn't hurt so many people along the way. Me too. But you can't change the past. Only the future. Keep working on that. Their financial situation had improved slightly. Christopher had been promoted at the dealership. Became a sales manager. Not banking money, but decent. Enough to stop the bleeding. To rebuild savings slowly. To think about their kids' college funds again. His kids were older now. Teenagers. Old enough to understand what had happened. He'd told them the story. Age-appropriate version. Then, as they matured, the full truth. Dad made a big mistake. Treated people badly. It cost him his job, his career, but it taught him important lessons. About respect. About kindness. About how to treat people. I'm trying to be better now. Every day, his son asked, "Do people at school know about what you did?" Some might. If they do, I'm sorry. That reflects on you. That's not fair. But it's reality. How you handle it is up to you. You could be ashamed, or you can own it. Say, yeah, my dad messed up, but he's working to be better. I'll let you decide. His son chose the latter. When kids brought it up, he didn't hide. Yeah, that's my dad. He made a mistake. He's learning from it. Teaching others. That's more important than one bad moment. Christopher was proud of that. His son had more emotional intelligence at 15 than Christopher had at 35. Maybe that was the silver lining. His kids learn empathy young. Learn that mistakes don't define you if you learn from them. 3 years after the incident, a journalist writing a long-form piece on the story contacted everyone involved. Where are they now? How has this shaped them? Margaret agreed to be interviewed. So did Christopher. Patricia from Sterling. Keanu initially declined, then reconsidered. The journalist, Amanda Liu, met Keanu at a coffee shop. Low-key. No cameras. Just conversation. Why did you decide to talk to me? Because the story keeps coming up. People still reference it. I want to make sure the right lessons are drawn. It's not about me being a hero. It's about systemic issues. About how banks treat people. About class discrimination. 3 years later, do you think things have changed? Some. Sterling has genuinely reformed from what I hear. Other banks have taken notice. There's more training, more awareness. But systemic change is slow. There's still classism, still discrimination, still people being judged by appearance or balance sheet. We made progress, but there's miles to go. Do you regret how it played out? The branch closure, people losing jobs. Keanu paused, considered. I regret that collateral damage happened, but I don't regret my action. I was treated poorly. Margaret was treated worse. I had the means to respond in a way that created accountability. I used them. The fact that Sterling's business couldn't survive losing my accounts and others, that reveals how unstable their model was, how dependent on exploitation. That's on them, not me. Have you spoken with Christopher Bradshaw? No. I'm aware he's speaking about his experience. Teaching. That's good. But I don't need to engage with him personally. He wronged Margaret more than me. If she's forgiven him, that's what matters. She has. She told me. Then there's nothing more to say. He learned. He's sharing that learning. That's the best outcome from a bad situation. Amanda's article came out 6 months later. Long piece. 8,000 words. Published in a major magazine. Titled The $250 million Mistake. What Keanu Reeves, a bank, and an elderly woman teach us about class in America. It was comprehensive. Fair. Showed all perspectives. Margaret's hurt and eventual forgiveness. Christopher's fall and attempted redemption. Sterling's crisis and transformation. Keanu's principled response and continued focus on systemic issues. The article went viral. Not like the original incident, but significant reach. It was shared in business schools, banking conferences, ethics seminars. It became a case study, taught alongside other corporate scandals, but unique in that it showed possibility of change, of learning, of redemption being earned through action. 5 years after the incident, Sterling Community Financial was stable, not thriving like before, but solid, profitable, ethical. Patricia had succeeded in turning the ship. The culture was genuinely different. Employees took pride in serving all clients, in being the bank that learned. Margaret was still with City National, happy, secure, her mortgage paid down, her financial situation stable. She still spoke occasionally for Sterling, reminding them of their past, holding them accountable for their present. Christopher was still selling cars, still speaking. He'd published a small book, self-published, 5 minutes, a memoir of mistake and redemption. It sold modestly, but the people who read it found it powerful, honest, useful. One reader wrote a review. This is what accountability looks like. Not defending, not minimizing, just owning what you did, learning from it, try to do better. We need more of this. More honesty about how good people can do bad things and how they can choose to grow. Keanu's life had moved on completely. New films, new projects, new causes. The banking incident was a footnote, something that came up occasionally but didn't define him. Because for him, it was simple. See injustice, respond appropriately, move on. That's just how he lived. But for others, the incident remained significant. A teaching moment, a conditionalidade, a story about consequences, about class, about dignity, about how one choice can cascade into waves affecting hundreds of people, about how wealth and platform can be used for good, about how culture can corrupt and individuals can choose resistance. 10 years after the incident, it would still be referenced in articles about Keanu, in banking ethics discussions, in conversations about class in America. Not because it was the most dramatic story, but because it was clear, clean, obvious. Rich person uses wealth to defend poor person. Bank faces consequences. Employee learns lesson. System changes slightly. It was a narrative people could understand, could rally around, could teach with. And in a complex world full of ambiguous situations, that clarity mattered. That's why it endured. Not because of the money, not because of the celebrity, but because of the core truth at its heart. Everyone deserves dignity. Treat people accordingly, or face consequences. Simple, clear, true.